Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and a very warm welcome to yet another Red and Blue review. My name is Nick Philpot. I'm your host for the next hour. Shortly going to be joined by Ian and Jim and Paul. I hope you're all well. We're going to be looking back on, I think it was Tuesday night's win at Loftus Road and yesterday's draw at Selhurst Park. First of all, Ian, welcome, mate. How are you doing?
Good evening, Nick. Good evening, everybody. Yeah, I'm really well, thank you.
Good stuff. And the real panel, a.k.a. Paul Gear. Good evening, mate.
Evening all. How you doing?
All right, mate. And the Ledge is here. Somebody change your name on screen. It should be the Ledge. It shouldn't be Jim. How you doing, mate? Long time no see. You all right?
I'm all right, but I always go by my name, Jim.
Do you? We don't call you that, okay? And good evening, everybody out there. I can see Paul and Dawn and Daniel, Luke, Andrew, James Philpot, Tim Richards. Nice to see you the other night, mate. And thank you for my QPR ticket. I'm very grateful. Trevor, I can see Marty's out there as well. Good evening to each and every one of you, wherever you are watching in the world. I think we're going to kick off with a little bit of history, if you don't mind, boys. We're going to come to the Man United game in a minute and the QPR game. We're going to deal with that sort of stuff shortly. But we need to tell everybody a little bit about our history. The WSL kicks off today, and Crystal Palace made their Women's Premier League debut, away at Brisbane Road, Leighton Orient, playing Tottenham away. And I think Nigel's got the lineup there for us. There you go. Yeah, it's in goal. We've got some new signings in there, including Veggie, Gibbons, old favourite, Everett, Annie Blanchard, Weirden, Green, Potter, Riley, and Gill and Stengel. However, it was always going to be a huge step up to the WSL from the Championship. You've only got to look back at what happened with Bristol City last season. They came up as clear champions from the Championship the season before and got absolutely pasted all season and went straight back down again. But congratulations to Laura Kaminsky and the ladies for the promotion. I think it's going to be a long, hard season for them all. Did any of you boys actually see any? Paul, you saw a little bit of it, didn't you?
Yeah, I had it on the laptop while I was watching the Brighton game on the telly. It was just, yeah, I mean, it's obviously saw the goals as they went in, and the keeper making her debut. She made a lot of good saves, but yeah, they were. I mean, Tottenham aren't the best team in the league, but they were still a level above. So as you say, it's going to be a tough one, but they got to grow into it, give them a few games and get together. So yeah, hopefully they'll get some rhythm and get some results.
There's quite a big difference in the standard and class between them, and there. I thought it was a bit of a tough watch, really. As you say, early days and everything else, but sadly they went down to a 4-0 defeat, as Nigel just showed you on the screen. But the one thing I will say about the ladies' team, folks, and that this Friday at Selhurst Park, I think it's a 7:30 kickoff. In fact, I'm pretty sure it is a 7:30 kickoff. Get yourselves down to Selhurst Park because they are playing at home in a WSL for the first time in their history. So if you can make it along there, I'll be there on Friday night myself, cheering on the ladies. So good luck to them. And sadly, however, they are playing the current champions on Friday night. So if today wasn't difficult enough for them, next Friday will certainly be a major test. So if you're getting along down there, it'd be great to see you. Talking about the other teams, I'm going to give you a quick rundown of the other results since our last show. The under-21s on Tuesday played the Premier League International Cup at the VBS Community Stadium, and it was a 2-2 draw with Real Sociedad's under-21s. On Friday, the Premier League 2 Division 1 at Crystal Palace Academy, Palace also, under-21s, also drew 1-1 with Reading. The under-18s were in action on the 21st in the Premier League Cup at the Crystal Palace training ground, and they went down to a horrendous 6-0 thrashing against Fulham's under-18s. And like I just said, Tottenham also, they played the Palace ladies today and a 4-0 win. Right, so we're going to kick off this evening. Like I said, I can see all your messages go through, everybody. So whilst we're not stopping to say hello to you all, I hope you're all well and thank you for joining us this evening. It's a little bit of a funny feel around the club at the moment because it's been a tough start to the season. Ian, before we go to Paul, I want to ask you, did you notice it the same even at QPR Stadium the other night and yesterday at home? A little bit of a flat atmosphere, not a fantastic atmosphere. The problem with the QPR Stadium or the stand that we were in, it was so spread out. To get everybody singing the same song at the same time was very difficult. and also QPR put us under immense early pressure. You feel the same?
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything you've just said there, Nick. First and foremost, it was good to see you the other night, by the way, at the QPR game. I don't see you at many games, but I saw you in the pub beforehand. Yeah, and you were down the lower tier in the front row. I saw you down there by the goal, and Paul and I were in the front row at the upper tier. And you're right, it's difficult sometimes those away games when you've got so many to get the behind the team with a single song, so to speak. But I think the crowd made themselves heard at Loftus Road. It was good to go back there after some years, of course. Yesterday's atmosphere, yeah, it wasn't too bad. I thought Man United made a bit of noise. I mean, I won't even. Don't get me started on what they were singing about, because that really wound me up still, and they know it winds us up, which is why they do it. But I thought the HF did all right yesterday, but yeah, it was a little bit quieter maybe than the Leicester game where we had the displays and everything.
Okay, I am going to pick you up on what you just said, because it was something that we talked about in the lower homes though yesterday, and yet they're doing the Cantona thing and all the rest of it, and they continue to do so. Bear in mind there is history, and there's a death of a Palace fan, Paul Nixon, God rest his soul and rest in peace. So the minute one of us starts sticking the arms out or singing about Busby Babes, we're rightly so, it would be in the shit for it. Okay, but they're allowed to get away with it. Is your thoughts on it? Your feelings on it?
Yeah, I'm just fed up with it, really. I mean, I don't think they probably do that to any other club. And yeah, as you say, sadly, Paul Nixon lost his life as a result of what happened that night. And it was unprecedented, wasn't it? It's never happened before or since. That kind of incident that provoked the response and what came out of it. A year later, wasn't it? I think, or was it later that season? I can't quite remember. Paul will correct me.
It was only about 3 months later.
3 months later, was it? Yeah, okay, yeah. So it was at the semi-final, wasn't it, I think? And we played them in the league in January at Selhurst. Yeah, I just think that it's unnecessary. I mean, I got into a row with a Man United fan coming out of Old Trafford about 4 or 5 years ago when he started singing it on one of the buses going back into Manchester. So, I just rise to it, unfortunately. But, yeah, I just wish they'd just shut up about it. And it's just unnecessary, as I say.
And we're getting asked questions in the chat. What are we actually talking about? The history of it. If you don't know the history of it, people, either go online and read up on Paul Nixon, Palace fan, Man United. You'll get all the details there. Anyway, Paul, on to Tuesday night's game away at Loftus Road. It was a bit of a weird one for me, because in my old head, I couldn't remember ever being inside the Loftus Road Stadium. I thought I might have been, but it wasn't anything that was familiar to me at all until I actually left there and I walked up to White City Tube Station, and I remembered that walk like it was yesterday. It was just a bizarre incident. Anyway, over to you, mate. Oh no, Ian, you're doing the QPR.
Yeah, well, first of all, as you arrive at the stadium, you walk from White City Station and you walk up past the ground, the main stand there. And I said I wasn't with you, Paul. I was with somebody, and I said, I bet your life our end is round the other side, because I knew that one end was lower tier and one end was upper tier, and I couldn't remember which way round it was. And sure enough, we got it wrong, so we had to walk all the way around the block to get in the ground. You can come out that end, but you can't go in that end. And when we got in there, I mean, Paul, you were already in the ground, but it was about half an hour before the kickoff, and it was pretty packed and queues outside. And inside it was pretty uncomfortable on the concourses, and it's really good. And goodness knows it, I don't see how that stand can pass, fire and safety, health and safety. Yeah, dangerous. If there was an emergency, it would have been very, very dangerous coming out. So I stayed where I was throughout the game at half time as well. Let's get the lineup up, Nigel, can we? Let's have a look at this. So no real surprises if you've been at the previous round where we started with a strong side as well. And sure enough, Oliver Glasner picked a strong side again to play QPR last Tuesday night in the third round of the Carabao Cup. No Adam Wharton. He gave him a rest. But otherwise, pretty strong side and one that we would have expected to see or hoped to see, really, if we're serious about, winning this competition. I don't think we can take any side lightly, especially when we're playing away from home against a team that are just a division below us. And look, we started brightly enough and got our noses in front early doors It was quick thinking by Eberechi Eza to play Nketiah in to get his first goal for Crystal Palace. Took it really well, low and hard, across the keeper into the far corner. And, it's 1-0 and we're looking pretty good. And we played out the first half. We won at half time. We're feeling pretty good. Then they get the goal back. I haven't seen their goal back. Paul, have you watched their goal back, the QPR goal? Anyone?
Yeah. No, well, probably it was ironic because they started putting a bit of pressure on the second half. They obviously came out, nothing to lose. And Henderson made a very good save from a flying header. It was going to the top corner. He flew across the goal, made a great save, took it out for the corner. He then, unfortunately, undid a bit of that work because he sort of flat. It was a very poor punch out from the corner, which they just put back in, and the guy hooked it into the top corner. So, yeah, I mean, if he'd have had a better clearance, then it probably wouldn't have happened. But the goal was coming, to be fair. They were putting some pressure on and stuff like that. So, and then they got their tails up, and it was a bit more of a trickier match.
Yeah, it was. And yet we responded fairly quickly afterwards. And there's a touch of good fortune about the winning goal. So there's a strike on goal and there's a massive deflection, which beats their goalkeeper for 2-1. And to be fair to him, he didn't celebrate. He played it really down. And we see the game out, number of substitutions in the second half. Well, not that many, actually. We had Hughes come off the bench. Sarr came off the bench for Nketiah. And Schlupp came on in stoppage time. But, we see our way through to the next round of the Cup, really. So, happy days, because it would be lovely, wouldn't it, to have a proper run and get to Wembley in this competition. We've never been in a League Cup final, of course. I think it's 4 semi-finals, Paul. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I think right.
We've lost every one of them. So I've been at most of those games down the years. But it'd be lovely to get to Wembley in this competition. So we bossed the possession. And there are the stats on the screen. If you're listening on the pod, we had 8 shots there, 6, 4 on target, more passes completed, and 5 offsides. Is that at the end? Yeah, 5 offsides. We were caught offside too many times. We've got to stop that, of course. There we go. So we're through to the 4th round of the League Cup, and the draw is next Wednesday, I think, after the round is completed. The round is in a mixed 2 weeks because of the European games and the sides competing in Europe enter the competition at this stage. So, the draw is on, I think it's after the Liverpool-West Ham fixture on Wednesday evening. So fingers crossed we get a nice home draw in the 4th round.
And a word on Eze, if you don't mind. I don't know if you guys saw it after the game. There was quite a lot made of it, that he spent an inordinate amount of time during the warm-down on the sidelines with the QPR fans signing autographs, stopping for photographs and everything else. It just goes, in my mind, it just goes to show the mark of the bloke. He's a genuinely nice fella. Hopefully he'll come back to Selhurst Park when he goes on to bigger and better things in a few years' time and do the same with our fans. But he's loved it. QPR, the QPR fans talking about him on the tube on the way home just said he was always go on to great things, and Palace will always be a stepping stone for him. How long has he been with us now? 4 years. And he will go on to, no doubt, onto bigger and better things next season. Anyway, thank you for that, Ian. So I'm just going to quickly cover off before I bring Jim in and Paul in on yesterday's game. Loan watch, if you don't mind. By the way, was anybody aware of some trouble at the stadium yesterday before I do loan watch?
Not me. Didn't see anything. No.
Something to do with Millwall fans in one of the stands and being escorted out by the police. Very bizarre. Why would they be? When Millwall playing yesterday as well, weren't they? Why would they be in our stadium? But anyway, loan watch. Owen Goodman played the full 90 minutes and kept another clean sheet for Wimbledon, who drew 0-0 with Bradford. Joe Whitworth played the full 90 for Exeter, and he's having a great season down there, who also kept a clean sheet, and they won 2-0 against Stevenage. Danny Emery played for full 90 minutes for Bromley, and they lost 1-0 to Grimsby. David Ozo was not part of the Derby County squad, who lost 1-0 away at Sheffield United, and Jezrin Raksaki played 67 minutes for Sheffield. Luke Plange came on in the 67th minute for HJK Helsinki, who drew 1-1 with somebody else. And finally, Teo Adramola played 73 minutes for Stockport, who lost 1-4 at home against Leyton Orient. Mr. Gear, over to you to cover off the Man United game, if you'd be so kind.
Yeah, just another lone one there. Hodgson came on for Leicester as well. I don't know if you mentioned that one.
No.
But yeah, he's see how he does in the Premier League in another colour shirt, shall we? But yes, so obviously we saw all the results coming through in the afternoon, and there were some hairy moments because we don't really want to be sinking too low at this point, although the league tables aren't too problematic at the moment. But all the results seem to finish up well. So we got to the ground, they announced the team, so we can put that up again. Not too much different from QPR really, because we'd obviously gone with a very strong team. Obviously Walton was back. He's obviously not fully fit, hence I think why he came off at half time. But he started the game, and we were back to full strength. Kamada, who we'll come on to a bit later, kept his place in the centre of midfield, which is, yeah, we'll come on to him later, I think, because there's some debates about where his best position is, what sort of player he is, and sort of how effective he is. But yes, other than that, we were full strength with the new guys in the team. So started the game. And Man United really from the start were quite attacking. They had about 4 or 5 corners in the first 10, 12 minutes, and we were penned back a bit, which was never a good way to start a game at home. But yeah, so they started getting chances. Garnacho had a very good chance, which Henderson tipped round the post, a very good save. They then had another chance from a corner, which again our set piece defending is appalling. It's just becoming all too frequent. We lose every single header from corners, I think these days, and it's something that really has needed addressing for a while, but still isn't being done. So we did well there. Henderson again, another save. Then they had their best chance. We got played through. Garnacho hit the bar, and then Fernandez hit the rebound into the floor, bounced up, hit the same part of the bar. So we were very fortunate there, I think. And yeah, so it was a case really. Certainly, all the people around me are like, let's just get to half time, 0-0. But yeah, we did actually get one chance in the first half. We had a nice little move down the left, and Mitchell cut it back to Eze. And he tried to place it. He was trying to be too clever with some of his finishing, which is something which I'll bring on in the second half was probably not ideal. But yeah, so we went in 0-0 half time. Probably a bit fortunate to be 0-0 below the Kosh, and yeah, so expecting some changes. So yeah, Ian, Nick, what do you think?
Yeah,
Jim?
well, I was just going to ask Jim's view on the defending, really, because Jim, you watched the game yesterday. Do you agree with Paul that our defending is fairly shambolic when we're defending corners?
Yeah, I think it's evident. Even last season, even probably the last couple of seasons, we're not very good. Always look at the goalkeeper commanding his back line there, and I've got my biggest problem with Henderson was brilliant yesterday and kept us in the game. But sometimes even long balls over the top, he sort of dillies and he dallies. I mean, I put him at blame for Vardy's goal against Leicester. He could have come out and dived at his foot. He stopped, he stopped, and then when he got there, he was all over the shot. But I mean, Delight got away. Delight. He got away yesterday. Right. And I'm looking, I'm thinking, well, there's nobody marking him. Who's actually marking this guy? So, but I think teams realise that. I mean, teams know that we are very weak on defending crosses. What you can do about that, I'm not sure. The manager's got to work on players taking a bit more. It's almost as if they sort of shrink in. Oh, he's a bit bigger than me, I'm not going to win that. Whereas if you look at Martinez, a little guy at Man United, I mean, he's 5 foot nothing. But I tell you what, when he goes for corners, he seems to be 10 foot tall, and we seem to shrink a little bit. But I do think the goalkeeper could be a little bit more vociferous, making sure people are marked, and if he needs to come for balls, come for it. But he will not come for them. So I think that puts more pressure on defenders when they know the keeper is going to stay on his line. So it's definitely a weak point of ours, and I think teams realise that.
Right, I'm going to jump. So much to pick out of what you just said there, Jim, if you don't mind. First of all, I completely agree with the defending. I think your word was shambolic sometimes. So the guys around me who were talking about the fact that we were actually zonal marking yesterday. Would you agree with that?
I wouldn't have a clue what they were doing yesterday. If they were zonal marking, it didn't look like it. So I don't know. I mean, you've got their biggest player or probably best header is that Delete. So we should be putting Mateta on him because he's 6'4", or Lacroix, who's 6'3". But we don't seem to do that. I mean, he just pulled to the back post and just jumped above everybody. So I don't know what system or how they're doing it. I can't really work it out at the moment.
And I'm glad you mentioned it. Hang on, Ian, if you don't mind, because before I forget to ask Jim these questions, because Paul's going to move on to the second half in a minute. But before he does that, okay, I need to talk about you're talking about the system, Jim. Thank you, because I want to ask about Walton and Kamada in the middle of the park. He's playing those two basically in two holding roles. They're both very lightweight. Paul's already alluded to the fact that he doesn't think Walton's 100% fit. And as soon as he brought on Lerma yesterday afternoon in the second half, okay, we looked at a different proposition. Do you think they're too lightweight? And this is to you, Jim. Do you think they're too lightweight in the middle?
Well, Kamada to me is a bit of a mystery because I'm not sure. You know, normally you sign a player, he's a right winger, he's a centre forward, he's a fullback. I don't know where this player plays. He started wide on the right a couple of times. I was totally surprised that he put him in the middle of the park, especially when you've got Lerma and Hughes, who both sort of, and Hughes, as much as getting stuck in, he gets people playing around him. Kamada's I think he's a really good player, but I think we need to find a position for him that's, I don't necessarily think he's somebody that would start a game. So to see them both in the middle of the park yesterday, I thought we would have problems right away. Wharton, they got overrun in the middle of the park. Wharton really struggled purely because as soon as he got the ball, there was people closing them down. Kamada, I'm just not sure about. I like him. This sounds sort of like double-sided. Yeah. He looks a really good player, but where? I mean, I thought he was a player that from the middle of the park, he get in the box, because watching him early doors, start of the season, he was getting in behind, he was making runs. I don't think he's a central midfield player in the Premier League.
Thank you, mate. Ian, I'm going to ask you the elephant in the room question now. Okay, Jim has just said quite clearly that he doesn't know why he started those two together in the middle of the park. Okay, here's the elephant in the room. Is the manager culpable for that?
Possibly, because he picks the team. And yeah, I think Kamada, we said pre-show, is about fifth choice probably to play in there in the defensive midfield role, in a sort of pivot role. But there was a lot of hate for him yesterday. I didn't think he played too badly. I'm with Jim. I like him. I think he's a bit of a utility player, you could argue. You know, almost play him anywhere. I think we saw that yesterday. He played in different positions as the game wore on. And, you know, I think he did break the ball play up quite a bit in the middle of the field in that first half. And he sort of did more than Adam Wharton did yesterday for me. So maybe that's the reason why he was left on and played the full 90. And Adam Wharton, albeit he could be injured, you know, was hauled at half time. But I think we need to give Kamada a bit more time. But I think his best position is probably in a 10 role or something like that, where he's in behind the front two and he's going to make runs beyond their back line and get on the end of things. He scored that goal, didn't he? He scored a goal against Norwich, but he also scored a good goal in pre-season as well. So we know he can score goals.
Paul, I mean, the thing I find frustrating about Kamada, and I'm very pleased, is, you know, I think Ian's probably right. He's a bit of a utility player. Is he seems to break the play up, which is what his role is, okay, or it certainly was against QPR and Man United. But his passing accuracy is just pants. He can't string a pass together with anybody else. Have you noticed the same thing over the last couple of games?
Well, I've said a couple of times at the start of this show, I've sort of watched him at the start of the season as he was a new player, and he was playing in the Michael Elise role, just in opposite the other side to Eze. And I think he's a very intelligent footballer, and I know sometimes that's not always people say that because they're trying to make up for the fact he's a bit lightweight. But I think he has, as Ian said, his goal against Norwich, he makes runs through the defenders and he makes some good balls, but our midfield aren't used to him yet, so they're not going to play those balls. I think once they play together more, that will help. I think, yeah, as I say, I think his best position is just in one of those two front ahead of the base midfielders. I think yesterday he played out of necessity, really. I think, obviously, Walton's not fully fit. Doucouré's now out for a few weeks. Lerma just come back from Colombia. Hughes, I think, is probably, I like Hughes, he's a good player, but he's not the quickest. So maybe he might have thought the two of them aren't quite so good together. So there were, as I said to Ian earlier, I think he's probably our 5th choice for that position. But yesterday, for circumstances, he played. Like, as I say, I thought he played all right, but I think as the team showed, when Lerma came on, I think he's going to be better if he plays with someone else who's going to do the dirty work, win the ball and do the running. And he's more of the technician, as it were. So, yeah, it's interesting to see the opinions of him online and things like that. Because, as you say, he's very Marmite at the moment. There's a lot of people who aren't convinced by him. And there's a lot of people who think there's some potential there. As always, he's played 5 Premier League games in his life. He's come from Italy, which is a lot slower game. So he may take some time to acclimatise. So it's probably a bit early to make a judgment. But, yeah, I certainly wouldn't be writing him off at this point.
No, absolutely right. And talking about useful utility players, I want to just hark back. I mentioned pre-show. I think he was a Japanese guy, a little Japanese fella, played the QPR the other night on their left, facing us on our right. He only played for the first hour and then got hooked because he knackered himself out so much. But he looked a quality little player as well. Anyway, Paul, over to you, mate, for the second half.
Yeah, so we came out second half. Interesting, we can talk about this later as well. He made 2 changes. Walton, as I said, I think went off. I don't think he's 100% fit, so I think that was why Lerma came on for him. And I think in the first half, I mean, I like Jean-Philippe Mateta. I don't think he's the most mobile, and I don't think he makes enough runs in the team at the moment that we're playing. So when he brought Sarr on, I was quite pleased because you got 3, Eze, Nketiah and Sarr. They're all mobile, they're all quick. And they'll chase balls and they'll give runs to pass things on. And I think the whole change, that's when the game sort of changed and we got into it a bit more because we caused them more problems. I say, at the end of last season, Mateta was great because we had Elise, we had Eze, we had people creating chances for him. And if you give him chances, he'll take them. But when the chances aren't flowing, he's not necessarily, he's not offering enough for me. So I was quite pleased to see Sarr come on. And yeah, I think we started a bit brighter. It was a bit more of an even game, back and forth. United still was sort of having the better chances at that point. Henderson made a good save from a sort of wide angle shot from Garnacho. He tipped it wide, quite high up, which was another good save. Then Fernandez had a shot with the outside of the boot, which just missed the post, which was a bit fortunate because I don't think the keeper would have seen that. So it was, United was still causing us problems, but we were beginning to give him problems with them. So we get to the hour mark and you get the first real controversial moment of the game. With there's pinballing in our box and we're trying to clear it, and Kamada sort of he goes for the ball, but Martinez sort of comes in with the most ridiculous jump tackle I think anyone's ever seen. Now, at the time, I didn't really see it as much of a problem, and he came out. If you go by the rules of the game, it's a red card. I mean, you're 2 foot in the air, you're out of control. Even the PGMOL on their website said it was reckless, which I'm surprised they didn't get him to sort of recheck it. But once your feet are in the air, you can't move them. So if Kamada does decide to slide or anything like that, he can't get out of the way of him, and he's going to crunch him. So when you're out of control, surely it's a dangerous red card. So yeah, please. What
do you think? First, then Jim, I want your thoughts on it.
Yeah, so he's booked him, right? So he's seen there's a foul, so he's booked him. He's got it wrong, obviously, in my opinion, anyway, and in most of our opinions, I think, by the sound of it. And it should have been a straight red. But why hasn't VAR looked at that and slowed it down even? Like some of those images that we've just watched back there. So if you're listening to this and not watching live on a pod, then you wonder what we're talking about. We've just watched those images where he's gone in with both feet from different angles. Why have VAR not said to David Coop, whispered in his ear, said, mate, you need to go over to the monitor and have a look at that because we think he should be sent off?
Indeed. And in Nigel, have you got that statement from the PGMOL? Because I think it's quite interesting that Jim, while Nigel's finding that, your thoughts on that tackle, please? Oh, yeah, he's just pulled it up. Hang on 2 seconds. Because I do want your opinion on it. So you can quite clearly see the referee issued a yellow card for Martinez for a challenge on Kamada. VAR checked it for a potential red card and confirmed the referee's call of no red card. I mean, so they got it wrong as well, deeming this was a reckless challenge and made no contact with Kamada. Now, Jim, just before the show, you said that they've actually changed it now from reckless to, what was the other thing you said, out of control, or it's not a red cardable offence now. Is that right?
Well, they seem to be letting them sort of tackles go a little bit. Like it was intent was always
intent. That's what you said.
You know, like the wording of that bit we've just seen there, reckless. If it's a reckless tackle, he should be off the park. I mean, he's really lucky that Kamada didn't come through a little bit more with the ball and his feet. But to me, it's a sending off. He could have broken his legs there.
Easy.
And a 2-footed tackle in anywhere in the park, you're getting sent off. You're out of control. They say if you're out of control, it's reckless and it's a sending off. Well, he was out of control because if both feet are off the floor, you got no control on where you're going apart from where you've aimed for in the first place. You can't stop. You can't change direction. And yeah, he should have been sent off. But they make their own rules up as they go, don't they?
I think you're right. And well, funny you should ask that question because Ian, I was about to say to you, is it too simplistic to ask? It's because it was Manchester United.
No, I don't think it is. I really don't. I mean, we can think that if we want to, but I think that you say Jim, he could have broken his leg. Yes, he could have broken his leg. So let's say he does connect with the player, broken leg or not, but he actually connects with him and he's in agony, he's writhing about on the floor. Does that put a different complexion on it for the referee and VAR? Do they then say, "Oh, that was really reckless. He could have broken his leg, or he did break his leg," and send him off? Does that change their mind, do you think?
Well, yeah. I mean, because he never touched the player as such. Luckily the ball was in the way. Now, I mean, like we say you're tackling and I went for the ball, but I don't know what he went for there. Because if Kamada actually half stopped, if that was a different player like a Richards or somebody like that, defender coming through there, he would have been hammered. So I'm not really sure on that.
Yeah, I'm sure we'd far rather have the player than have a opposition down to 10 men. We'd far rather still have a player, wouldn't we? So he got away with one, Kamada Paul.
Ladies and gentlemen, out in the chat, I'd love your thoughts, please. Red or no red? Very simple. Red or no red? Paul, the reality was, okay, yes, he's out of control. Yes, he's reckless, but he actually played the ball, didn't he?
Yeah, as Jim says, that they are using a higher bar this year. That's their excuse. But there's certain tackles that shouldn't matter to you. You keep watching all these ref watch programs and Howard Webb trying to justify everything on his show with Michael Owen. Now, these days, getting the ball is no longer relevant. If you get the ball and get the man, it's fine. Even on their, it's still a foul. On their description, they say it's because he didn't make contact with the player, which again is obviously if he does make contact, he's off. But the fact that he didn't make contact is their excuse not to do it. But as we've said in other times, if you swing a punch at someone and miss, you still get sent off. You don't necessarily have to connect. Vincent Kompany was sent off a few years ago with the exact same challenge as that, and he didn't get the man or the ball. But because he's coming, you see the still we have of the picture. He's like 2 foot in the air. I mean, if he comes down on someone, he's taking him out, and that's, as I say, that's the key factor. And so I'm amazed. And again, I know we don't like to say it, but if it had been Kamada on Martinez, I'd imagine it probably would have been a different outcome.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go. And there's nobody convinced me in the chat that it wasn't anything but a red all day long. But go on, Ian.
Well, I think there's one opinion that's different. Everyone's saying red card, apart from you, Paul Bristow, as an ex-referee. You apparently saw the view of David Coote, but I think you're on your own, pal.
I think it also again shows the ineptitude of the referees. I know we always say it. I think we got some shocking referees at the moment, and there were 2 or 3 terrible decisions yesterday that VAR couldn't get involved with or did and still got wrong. I mean,
you don't know what you did, Paul. You don't know what you did just then. Now I've got to hand over to Jim Cannon for his famous, now infamous thought process on our referees. Jim, what's your thought on our referees, mate? Go for it.
No, I've forgotten what I said.
We'll find the clip and play it in. It's red and blue review.
So what do you advocate? Who should be sitting in the VAR room in your mind? Well, they should have a couple of players that have played 300-400 games in the Premiership. Definitely. But then they would have to be retired guys, obviously. But yeah, I mean, the referees... From the day I first started playing, I've thought they were wankers.
Red and blue review gold. Absolute quality, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is why we have Lord Cannon on with us regularly. Thank you, mate. Fantastic bit of audio, and well done, Nigel, for finding it so quick. Right, Paul, you better continue with the second half.
Yeah, so obviously, so they managed to keep 11 men on the pitch, and it was a good game at that point. It was to and fro. We were giving them problems getting forward a bit more this time as well, getting the wing backs starting to go forward, and then we got our first real proper chance of the second half, and ball was played through to Nketiah, who put head down and ran forward, which is always something I like to see. I think we're in the trap at the moment of being too passing it around, too going backwards, too slow. But we were up in the pace. He got towards the edge of the box, hit a good shot, and Arna made a very good save. And then Sarr is coming in on the rebound, and everyone's just waiting for the net to ripple. And fair play to Onana, he's got back up and made an incredible double save. I mean, you'd like to think Sarr will probably be disappointed he didn't smash it in, but you have to take your hat off. It was a very good save. So yeah, we were getting them a bit on the rack now, and then obviously Sarr again, Eze and Sarr make a good little combination down the right hand side. He pulls it back to Eze, and this is where he's put it wide. Again, in the first half, I think he tried to be too clever with his finish, tried to pass it in the net. I was hoping that if he got the same chance again the second time, he'd just put his foot through it, which he probably should have done. But he tried to put it in the tiny postage stamp at the bottom corner and put it wide, which really was the game. If we'd have scored that, it was a win.
Different result. And I don't know about you guys, but where I was standing in the lower Holmesdale Block B, of course, we're looking down on the goal down here. For all intents and purposes, that went in. And in fact, a couple of people around us was actually celebrating that it gone in. Ian?
Yeah, I mean, let me talk about both of those opportunities, because the Sarr one that followed up the Nketiah shot, I really thought he missed the target from where I was sitting. And I thought, how did he miss it? But he didn't miss. Of course, it was an excellent save. And Arna, he pulls off a double save that is right up there. You can see the way the Manchester United players reacted, all charging around him, patting him on the back. That was a piece of quality goalkeeping. And I think we were just a bit very unlucky not to be 1-0 up then. The Eze chance that went wide, I've watched it back, and as you're looking at the goal, the left-hand side of the goal is empty. It's absolutely empty. So if he actually opens his body up and puts it the other side of the goalkeeper, he scores all day, every day. And he was so annoyed with himself. You could see his reaction. I don't understand how a player of his caliber, and Jim, you might be able to help us out with this. You've played the game at the highest level. How do players that good miss those chances? You'd put your house on him, wouldn't you, to score from that opportunity?
Well, they all miss chances, don't they?
Yeah.
You're right. That the keeper's right hand side was way more room, but things happen really quick, and he's made his mind up. And he scored a goal the other day where against Chelsea, from much further out, exact same thing, and he's got this nice way he just bends. It's a side foot bend, and he just wrong side of the post. Unfortunately,
I'm curious. Could you ever do that? That side foot bend you just described. Could you actually do that in training?
I could only do it and hit the ball 100 yards.
In that direction. Yeah. I love your honesty, mate. I love your honesty. Keep going, Paul. All yours, mate.
So, yeah, they'd say there was 10 minutes left to go, and there was some huffing and puffing. And I think it got to the point there where both teams were going to take the point. And, yeah, it was, ultimately, it's one of those games. I think United were a better team in the first half. They had a lot of chances. They could have been 2-3 up. Second half was more even, but I think we had the two gilt-edged chances. So either team could have won it. So in that respect, you could say a draw is probably a fair result. You probably take a draw against Man United, to be honest, at the moment. But yeah, looking at that man there, I'll see that he was the man of the match. I thought he had excellent. I think he's a very good shot stopper. As Jim says, he has some issues with crosses and on his line and command in his box and stuff. But yeah, he did the business yesterday and kept us a clean sheet, which is first time ever Palace have kept 3 clean sheets in a row versus Manchester United. So that's a feather in our cap there, which is nice. But yeah, as I say, it's not the worst result in the world, draw with Man United, to be honest.
Yeah, I wanted to mention the corner situation as well, because once again, we had 2 corners. If you look at those stats against QPR the other day and those corners that you've just alluded to, We still haven't scored from the corner, boys. When is this run going to end?
Well, it's a bit like the opposite to what we were talking about earlier. You know, we can't defend them very well, and we can't attack them very well either. You know, I don't know. Oliver Glasner needs to get a specialist on set pieces or something to add to his coaching staff and sort this out, because we're missing opportunities. You know, I don't like to talk about other teams on this podcast, but flipping out Gabriel, you just know every time he goes up for a corner, he's you know, he looks like he's going to score. At least get on the end of it. And I don't understand why we can't do that ourselves.
Yeah, Gabriel does it because they put 2 blockers on the goalkeeper. That's why, as they did a la Crystal Palace and a la today. Paul.
There's a few little tactics that the team employ. Obviously, I think we can all talk about we're playing a bit slow at the moment, things like that. I'd be interested to know something that Jim's opinion on. Something that really bugs me when we're defending corners is why we don't leave someone on the halfway line, because A, it gives you someone to clear the ball to if you can clear it, and they keep 2 men back so they don't pile all the men in. Is that something we used to do when you played? Did you keep a man up front, or was it always everyone back?
No, we always wanted to keep one up front, because you always had 2 players would stay back. So right away, you've got better numbers. But that's down to, I would imagine it's down to the manager thinking we need everybody in the box to defend it. But you're right, there was a few times when balls come out.
Yeah, just come straight back.
Up, and then it's coming back in again. So it's... but you'd have to speak to Oliver Glasner on that one.
But we're not alone, as I say. Lots of teams do it. It's always baffled me a bit, because, as I say, it's like Arsenal today. I mean, I know they were down to 10 men. They didn't play a striker in the second half, and so every time they cleared the ball, it was just coming back and pressuring them all the time. But yeah, it's just someone to take the pressure, someone with a bit of pace, and it gives someone to hit the ball out to. But there's all these managers, you say, manager quirks. They want this. Some have men on posts, don't they, and some don't, and things like that. So, but yeah, it's interesting to see what we're doing. I think we're suffering a bit of confidence at the moment. We need that first win. We need to take the lead in the game, because I think, particularly at QPR the other night, it was first half, we're too slow and we're too cautious and we're going backwards all the time rather than playing forward. Now, I can't put that all down to Michael Elise going. I think it's just whether they're bedding in or not sure. But we are not playing as quick or forward as we were. And whether Sarr coming in will help that. I think we've got a very interesting game on Saturday, which we'll probably come up to. We've got Everton next. Now, they're not renowned for having a very quick back line. They've got a quite creaky, older back line. So I think we want some pace running at them. But, yeah, I mean, Ian, Nick, Jim, what's your opinion on the way we're actually playing at the moment? I know we're getting draws, but...
I just feel that the team isn't settled. I think we're still in a period of transition with new players coming in. You know, I like the look of Eddie Nketiah. I know it was only QPR, but he scored that goal. And, you know, he had that shot yesterday, which, you know, was encouraging. You know, Kamada, we've already talked about. Lacroix, I'm not sure about. I think the jury is out. I think, you know, he didn't do anything wrong, but he doesn't fill me with a lot of confidence when he's either on the ball or off the ball. So I think we're in this period of transition. Sarr must start against Everton, says Mark Whittaker, and I'm inclined to agree with you. I'd like to see more of Sarr. I think he's looked very useful when he has come on, and of course he won the penalty against Leicester, and he got in dangerous positions yesterday as well. So, you know, maybe it's time for a little bit of a change in that starting 11 that we've seen recently in the last 2 games when we play away up at Goodison next Saturday.
Interesting you mentioned those 2, Ian, because you've literally stolen my thunder in the next few minutes, because I wanted to talk about a couple of the other new signings. But before we do that, I must mention our Instagram account run by Tom Clark Samuel. Tom, you're doing a fantastic job, mate. Thank you very much for all you do, all your hard work you do behind the scenes. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're not following us on Instagram, it's red_and_blue_review. Please give me a like, share, or follow, or whatever you do on our on Instagram, because I haven't got it, because I haven't got anything from Meta, including Facebook or anything like that. But follow Tom on there, and see all these hard work that he puts together. There's quizzes and God knows what else on there. Also, follow us on our Instagram, our Twitter account that Ian Noble runs for us on a daily basis. There's lots of content on there. What is our handle on Twitter, mate?
I don't know. I just
You're supposed to be the governor. You're supposed to be in charge of it.
Don't ask me questions that we haven't prepared for.
Well, you know that bus that I normally drive, and I just chucked you underneath it. at Red and Blue Review.
I'll tell you, I'm just looking it up now. Hang on a sec.
Hang on a sec.
Here we go. It's red_blue_review. There you go.
There you go. So, please follow us on our Twitter account. He hates it when I do. So I was actually going to come on to Sarton. There it is. It's the Red and Blue Review 8132 is what it is.
That's YouTube. That is. Come on.
And that's our YouTube channel.
Listen, Nick, whenever we start talking about social media, it just goes downhill. So let's move on quickly. Right.
I want to talk about Sarr and Nketiah. Jim, your initial thoughts on both of them. You probably only seen Nketiah yesterday. You didn't see him at QPR the other day. And Sarr's impact, I think he's now made 2 subs impacts now. Your thoughts on him, please? Both of them.
Well, I've seen Nketiah play when he was at Arsenal, and I've always thought he looked, without getting regular games, he always looked a decent player. He seemed to cause teams problems. He's got a good strike on him, scored a few goals for them. So I think he'll, at the moment, I think we're still bedding in. There's players that they're quite new to one another. I mean, even the back three, they looked uncomfortable at times, even in their passing out from the back. They were making the wrong choices. Lacroix, I think he'd be a decent player. Richards looks really nervous on the ball at the moment, which I not really understand why. And I watched a little bit of the Fulham game yesterday, and Anderson gets the ball, just nice little clip balls, and everything just looked a little bit more composed when he was playing. And I think we've lost that a little bit at the back at the moment. But you've got, a new back four. Gehi played all these games for us on the left side of the back three. Now he's moved about. And so the one thing that stuck in my mind yesterday, and I watched Glasner really quite well in all these movements and these gesticulations. He wants players to close down in the last third there. And he's not getting it at the moment because they're doing it. One does it and the other one does it. And suddenly one goes and the guy that he's left goes into a space and he gets the ball. And I think he's getting a bit frustrated. And I think that's all to do with we've had so many changes, different players doing different things. Nketiah didn't go and close anybody down. He was in the middle of the park there, and you can almost see Glasner try to sort of push him on. And if you don't do it all together, it never works. So, Sarr, he looks a really good player. I don't know why. I would have played him wide on the right. I wouldn't have played Kamada in the middle of the park. I would have started with whether Lerma's not 100% fit or not, I'm not sure. But Sarr seems to me the one player who's got lots of pace. I've seen loads of goals he scored for Watford in the Premiership. We don't pick the team. We don't see the training, what goes on and who does what in sort of training sessions. But I would definitely, I like Sarr. I think he looks a good player. He looks quick. He comfortable on the ball. He done well. They're great with that run. They check back and set Eze up, obviously. But I think we're definitely bedding in. We do look a decent team. Yesterday we could have nicked it. Would have been totally unjust. A draw probably in the end was a good result. But them two, I think, will be really good players. But my belief is some players, you need to give them a game. If you play a player 20 minutes, bring them off, put them on again for another 20. Sometimes you just need to say to that player, I'm going to give you 3 or 4 games and you do the business for me. Because we definitely need a bit more width. And we, apart from the 2 fullbacks, Munoz and Mitchell, we're not getting that. And Mitchell does really well, but his end ball lets him down into the box lots of times. So it's something he can improve on. But yeah, they're good players. They'll do good for us. But I'd like to see Sarr. I wish he'd just put Sarr wide on the right and say, go and play for a few games and see how he does.
I actually make you right about Sarr, actually. Paul, I'm coming to you now, mate. I think Sarr will start against Everton next week, in my opinion. I'm reading all the comments as they're going through. And they're saying that our wing-back system isn't working as well as it did last season. Paul?
Yeah, I was going to, on the point that Jim made, I was the same. I was surprised yesterday that Sarr's made his name at Watford as a winger, and he played for Marseille, I believe, as a winger, and he generally does for his country. And Nketiah is obviously a centre forward, so I was surprised when they came out that he had Sarr up top and Nketiah is still in the withdrawn role. I think they would be much more natural to have it the other way around. Whether they're going to try and rotate that, I don't know, or whether they wanted Sarr's height, I'm not sure. But yeah, that did seem a bit of a strange one, because all the stuff he's done, the good work he's done with making penalties and the cutbacks yesterday have been on the wit. So I think those three up front would be quite it'd be a bit harsh on Mateta because he is scoring the goals. But I think that's, as I said earlier, a much more mobile, pacey front line. And I think, as we say, give them a few games together and hopefully they can start getting some understanding and work together well. But yeah, as you say, it's horses for courses in some games, as I say. I think this week would be a good time to unleash them. As I say, they're pacey. Everton aren't that quick. It would be good to get our first win on the board. Obviously, it's always good to get the first win. We don't want to go too far without it. There was an interesting stat on Sky. It's the first time ever in the Premier League that after 5 games, there's 6 teams that haven't won a game yet. So there's a few teams down there searching for that first win, Everton being one of them as well. But yeah, they're having a shocking start to the season, so we really need to take advantage of that this week.
Just going to read out Lee Lockwood's comment in case you haven't seen it. I'm sorry, but out of all the signings we've made, it's only Lacroix that's made me excited. Interesting. I think Kamada will ultimately be a flop. They're much better. Chadi Riyad, we haven't spoken about yet, will be okay. Not groundbreaking. And Eddie Nketiah will be another Benteke. I think it's got in.
Well, I'd have to disagree with you, Lee. I'm sorry, mate, but football is about opinions. But you know, I think the only player that really has, well, one of the players that hasn't impressed me is Lacroix. I haven't seen anything of him really. You know, he's defended okay, but you know, I would have felt a lot more comfortable if we had Anderson playing alongside there. Now he might come good. Let's hope he does. And the same with Riyad. You know, we've actually got strength in depth at centre back, haven't we? We've got Chalobah to come in as well. We haven't spoken about him.
Come on to Chalobah.
You know, we've got strength in depth at centre back, so we shouldn't have a problem there. But Paul, I think I'll make you right. I think we've got to play players in their natural positions. So, you know, are we saying then that we drop Mateta for Everton and play Sarr and Nketiah? Yeah,
I would. Yeah, I think I would. Yeah. And on Lacroix, I quite like Lacroix. I think he looks good. He's had a couple of wobbles with some bad passes and things like that. He looks quick, which is always good to have some pace in the back line as well. And as I say, Chalobah to me is probably going to be a bench player for us.
Do you think so? Yeah. Jim, do you know much about Chalobah from Chelsea?
No, but I think when he's fit, he'll be straight in.
I agree.
Because he's got a lot of quality about him. Comfortable on the ball. He'll get forward. Good defender. Yeah, I can't see him coming here to sit on the bench. But once he's fit, we'll have to wait and see.
And that will be at the expense of Chris Richards, presumably, will it? Do you reckon?
I would think so. Yeah. Chris. I mean, he was brilliant last year, but this year he's a little bit. He just looks really nervous on the ball. You know, like he's getting the ball, and I don't think he's suited playing on the left hand. I don't even know if he's right-footed or left-footed, but there's a few times he's hit the dugout with his left foot, try to find Mitchell. So, but whether that's just a little bit of lack of confidence at the moment, I don't know, because he done really well last year. So I've got no problems with him, but they need to be better. That's all.
Thanks, Trev. Trev says I'm going to have to change my medication. I've found myself agreeing with Ian again. Thanks, Trev. Love you too, mate.
Trevor, go give your red wobble, mate. I'll tell you now. If you agree with him, you really need to see a doctor. Okay. Right. Upcoming fixtures, please, Nige. So we've got some fairly important games coming up, and then we've got another international break coming up. So. Saturday, the 28th of September at 3 o'clock, we are away at Goodison Park for the final time. And then, in the following week, we're at home to another Merseyside team, Liverpool, on Saturday, the 5th of October. Then we have a bit of an international break because we don't play again until the 21st of October, which is an 8 o'clock kickoff at the City Ground against Forest. Then we got Tottenham and Wolves in the beginning of November, and obviously we got Fulham there as well. That's on the 9th of November. So how do we? Oh, we've also got the Carabao Cup fourth round games need to be played at the end of October, 30th of October, and we don't know who we're going to be playing yet. just go back to Chalobah, by the way. Chelsea fans I know love the guy, says Lee. They're all confident he'll upgrade us 100%. And do you know what, Lee? I've had the same sort of feedback from Chelsea fans. Not that I try to avoid them at all costs, a bit like Brighton fans, really. But the ones I've spoken to are nothing but seriously impressed with what they've seen of him, okay, and think he'll be an upgrade on everything we've got, including Mark Gahey. So, boys, are you doing any of the away games? Everton, Forest?
Yeah, I'll be at Goodison. We're both going, Paul, aren't we, next Saturday?
Yeah, we're all booked to go to Everton.
Yeah, so our final visit. It'll be quite nostalgic, actually, because we had some good nights there and some bad nights there. But, yeah, looking forward to it. Yeah, very much so.
Hopefully we'll have a good crowd up there. It's the first time since we've come back up in 11, 12 years that we've actually taken both tiers of what is normally the away section. So hopefully we'll have our biggest crowd up there, good following, and yeah, they can hopefully cheer us on to a good result.
Yeah, again, that's Saturday, 28th of September at 3 o'clock. Boys, I'm nearly at the end here. Anything that I've missed on? Anything you needed to touch on? Wasn't the DSA doing something?
Oh, I was just going to say, you asked about other games as well. It's interesting that the next 2 away games are Forest, which is on a Monday night football, and then Wolves has also been moved for TV. We don't say that on there, Sky, but it has been moved for TV to Saturday tea time. Call me plastic if you like, but I'm going to give both of those a miss probably. Paul Gear is smiling because he would never miss a game voluntarily.
I am actually missing the Forest game, aren't I? Because my annual, I go to Las Vegas every October for my birthday week, so I always miss one game a season. So I'm going to be watching that in a sports bar in Vegas, that game, but I'll be back at Molineux the week after.
Jim, do you get to any away games?
No, unless I get an invite for some corporate.
That old chestnut, right? Okay.
Yeah, I don't.
You know your problem, Jim, don't you?
The last away game I went to was No, I've been to Fulham, but the game before that I went to Brighton. I had a nice cushioned seat, and I had to stand because everybody's standing. And I like to go and watch a game and sit down. I'm too old to be standing.
Jim, your problem is that you were too loyal at Crystal Palace. You didn't play enough games for other clubs. You see, if you've gone and played for other clubs, they'll be inviting you back, and all that kind of stuff.
I know.
You can't change it now, my friend.
Yeah.
Do you ever? I mean, when you go to games and you go, I don't know, you go into the Homestead or anything like that, do you get mobbed? Is it a pain in the arse for you?
No. People recognise you, but no, not. A certain age group recognise. Man, it's quite funny sometimes because these young lads come up and ask for your autograph, and you think, well, how do you know like who I am? But no, I quite like walking up from the car park at Sainsbury's into the ground without anybody stopping me. I'm not interested in all this glitz and fame like some of these so-called wanker pundits.
Clip it, Nige. You got to clip it, Nige. You've done it again. I mean, Salako likes all that sort of stuff, doesn't he? He likes to be in front of the camera.
Yeah, but John Salako is a really humble, really nice guy. He's really funny as well. All he wants to do when he gets on the mic is he wants to sing. He's like, start singing. Like yesterday, somebody says, "I'm singing a song," and I just went, "You need to do that with one, not with drawn or lost a game." But
can he hold a tune?
Yeah, he's got a great voice. He's got a fabulous, he's got a really good voice,
I always remember seeing the squad do the FA Cup final song in 1990, and the whole squad looked really crestfallen trying to sing on TV, apart from John, who was trying to look like Elvis Presley. He was giving it all the dancing, and so he's definitely a show. He's definitely a showman in there.
Yeah, we over the years there has been. I remember Barry Siltman. We were in Sweden and we were in a nightclub, big nightclub, and there was this live band on. And when they finished for a break, he got up and started. He just said, "I'm going to go up and sing." So he got up and started singing, and some of the band come back on and started playing. And they had him on there all night. He was better than the band. It's nice when you've got somebody in the team that does that. It's very enjoyable.
Brilliant, brilliant.
So we will be back, ladies and gentlemen, next Sunday at 8 o'clock. I believe it is. Is it me again? I think it is me hosting next week. Isn't it? Oh, yeah. So it's Sunday the 29th of September, and we'll be reviewing the Everton game, of course. Hopefully, we'll be reviewing this and celebrating 3 points at last, because that will be a bit of a bonus. Thank you to Ian, Paul, and, of course, Sir Jim Cannon for joining me again this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, out of Facebook land or YouTube land or wherever you're listening or watching this, I hope you've enjoyed this little hour. We'll be back next Sunday. On behalf of the whole team and myself, I wish you well. Good night, everybody. Good night.
Good night, guys.
Cheers.
Good night.